Hey, Michael.
We're back.
Yeah, we're practicing the name of our guest. And
Go ahead.
Gijs.
Yeah,
Yes, Gijs.
Yes.
This is the way you said in Dutchland.
Gijs. Yeah,
Gijs.
I'm very impressed. Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
No, let's
okay.
just not mess it up.
No.
Yeah.
So, what are we gonna have today?
So, Gijs and I go back a ways. I don't know the exact date, but you've been in the region a while. I think partly because when you were raising funds, we talked.
Even
before
prior
that,
to
but I'm saying
yeah.
that was another juncture.
Yeah.
But you're just one of the people that I know in the ecosystem. Like I said, I don't even date it because I just known you for a long time. Thought about doing this before and I didn't follow up with you. So I'm glad we had lunch and kind of mapped out doing this. So
Michael randomly walked past my desk in the Carousell office and I was like, hey.
And he recognized me. I don't know. He goes, Michael. And I'm like, oh, well, look at that.
Hey, you.
Yeah. I knew you were there, but
Yeah.
I think didn't know where,
Yeah,
right? Plus, at a new office, you're running trust and safety
And support, yeah.
and support, which is interesting from an AI perspective.
And also very important for the company,
Yes.
not just for.
Yes.
Yeah, we had
All of us users of Carousell
Yeah.
every time I move. And then you built your sneaker biz and sold it to Carousell and you're still there, which I think is interesting because I think, some of the MOs people do it and move on, but I think it's interesting that how many years passed?
Three years. Yeah, a bit over. I mean, one thing that helps is that almost every year I got to do something different. And the integration of Oxstreet, it lives on sort of in Carousell certified luxury and a little bit even in the mobiles program, some of our methods and tech. But I was at that point quite done with that whole luxury marketplace kind of category. And then it turned out that there was a great opportunity and problem to solve in CS and trust that aligned with my interests, like a lot of AI rollout. So that was sort of almost a new chapter where I was like, yeah, this actually sounds like something I really want to do. And what we'll get to later, I think, is that as I think about building new products, it's actually really important to have one foot in the enterprise, right? Because so many ideas that I have are downstream from stuff that I see at Carousell or talking with other people that are in the same space or adjacent space. Like I lived on Bali for a couple of years and I had some of the worst business ideas ever while I was there, surrounded by digital nomads,
I have a theory on this, but I don't want to hijack everything. But before we go there, let's start with, you're here now in Singapore with your family, but you've kind of, we talked about pivotal moments or whatever euphemism you want to use, but you've been doing different things in different countries to kind of land here. So maybe highlight that for everybody.
Yeah, I started very traditionally. Well, the first pivotal moment was after the global financial crisis. I came across a newspaper article that said trillions of dollars wiped out with derivatives.
2008.
Yeah, 8 or 9. It was more like a post-mortem on how did it happen. And I picked it up, I bought the newspaper and I read it. It was like, what the fuck is all this stuff, right? CDO squared and cubed. I need to know about these things. And I was studying biomedical engineering then. I was a pretty lousy student up to that point. And I got completely nerd sniped by finance. So I got really into it, started reading my roommates' textbooks, and I decided to go on that path. So I ended up starting my career in private equity, did an internship before as well in M&A. And I loved building Excel models, really, really enjoyed sort of the challenge of building that. And I think that comes back later with coding now, which is the same kind of muscle. But I didn't realize that at the time. But after a couple of years, the whole path just, seemed so boring. A couple of years as an associate, and then you level up to whatever it is, then VP, or I don't even remember the ladder.
The hierarchy.
It just seemed so boring, and the work doesn't really change. And there's only so far you can take financial models. Your decisions don't get much better if you make much more intricate or more beautiful models, right? It's really sort of, you have to be pragmatic about that. So there, at some point, just came a big call to adventure. I wanted out of that path, and I also wanted to see more of the world and get out of the Netherlands. And a happy coincidence was that Rocket Internet was really active then in the Netherlands as well. But most of the ventures there weren't really doing that well, except for HelloFresh. And that ended up, a bunch of Dutch people ended up running rocket in Bangladesh and Myanmar and partly Pakistan. So, and they were my friends. So at some point, I just called them up and I asked them, hey, I want to do something else. I want to go to a country on the other side of the world and build a startup. And the first thing, I think within basically 10 seconds, the guy said, okay, you want to build Amazon in Myanmar? You can fly next Tuesday. And then I was like, whoa, guys, okay, hold on. There's a bonus coming, I have to finish this year and I need a little bit of time, but that's when I knew sort of, I really liked that cowboy.
And I think only Rocket was like that, right?
Yeah.
From that perspective, that's one cool thing I remember, because there's always good and bad Rocket stories, but I think the one of just the aggression to get moving, open up a business, pick a frontier market, nobody does that.
Yeah, exactly.
Even today, like they used to do.
Yeah, and the speed was so high, and there were no obstacles. Were just And so I took a flight to Bangladesh a couple months later with an intern, and we started building a jobs marketplace there, which was just one of the most fun and ridiculous times of my life. I can probably fill an hour just talking about crazy Bangladesh and rocket stories, but one that's really memorable is that one of those things there wasn't really a formal playbook, but there was like an oral tradition of some sorts. And one of the things that one of the other founders told me on day one was, don't compromise on internet. Find out what the best and most reliable, fastest internet is in your country, and whatever it takes, just buy that. So it's like, okay, I like that. Then there's a sensible rule. So I figured out what that was in Bangladesh, made the call, ordered it. And seriously, 2 hours later, a bunch of guys arrived with a coil of fiber around their shoulder and plugged it into a pole. And then another one started abseiling from our building, and they routed it through the window and plugged it in. And then the window, it was just going through a window. So I was looking at it, and I told them, I asked my employee as well, hey, so the window won't close. And they're like, yeah, you're right, the window can't close.
What was your feeling?
But you wanted internet.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, okay, sure.
What did you feel?
I was impressed. Later when I started Oak Street in Singapore, it took 5 weeks to get internet to our office. It took 2 hours in Bangladesh. That is one funny benefit of frontier markets. The same constraints just don't apply in those kind of things.
Of course, you can't lock your window, but
yeah,
internet.
There are many other drawbacks. Yeah, so that was fun about the country, and also one thing that I really took away from Rocket was something I still use today, is basically the idea of why can't we do this today? And it became clear that we needed to hire local salespeople. So via another Rocket venture, we got a couple of people in for an interview, and then 2 of them we wanted to hire. And so I asked, okay, when can you start? And that guy Adito said tomorrow. So then on a whim, I just said, why not today? And it was 11 a.m. or something. And he just sort of, I got to call my mom. And he did. And his mom said, fine. So we went for lunch, and he started after lunch. And that same day, he closed something like 40 or 50 sales. Wow. So that's something that I think still when I'm in meetings and what are the next steps, when can we get this done? Yeah, next Tuesday, next Wednesday. I oftentimes will just ask, okay, why not today? And it's not meant to be intimidating. It's more sort of like a thought starter. What stops us from closing the meeting room and just doing it right now?
Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
I like it.
At that time of your life, have you been with family coming over, or you just?
I burned all my bridges in the Netherlands. I had a girlfriend at the time, and I broke up with her and went to Bangladesh. So I was flying completely solo.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was a big decision, no? To leave everything behind, and
it didn't feel that big because it felt like a very safe career choice. Still, Rocket had that certainly that enough prestige that I could go back. If I needed to. I also thought it would be a path into VC, away from PE, because I had tried to join a VC, and they all said that they wanted people with startup experience. So in many ways, it was a very hedged move, but it was the best decision I made in my life. It changed my life completely.
And after Bangladesh, it's few more places, right?
Myanmar. So I was only in Bangladesh for a few months, then I went to Myanmar, and I was there a bit longer for 2 years. Learned to DJ with a couple others. We basically started throwing parties because the music in the clubs was so bad. Proper DJ.
Yeah, okay.
To the point we even started a club at the end of it. We were inspired by Boiler Room, to do local boiler rooms, and eventually convinced the owner of a building. It had a rooftop bar and then it had a gym, but in the middle there was another floor that was empty. Convinced the owner to turn it into a techno club. It's called Level 2, I think. Yeah, Level 2, and it still exists in different ownership and much bigger. But we literally started a techno club in Yangon, which you can't do that in many places.
No, yeah. And then Myanmar to.
Yeah, so maybe another pivotal moment there was with Rocket. We started to get left behind by local companies with better product, and we couldn't get our product in line. And I was asked to step up into, which sounds ridiculous at the time, I was 29 to 30 maybe, CEO of the region for this job marketplace. And my bosses told me, you don't have to worry about funding, you don't have to worry about tech. But I quickly found out that those were the top two things I had to worry about. So, first our BI went down, then our website started going down. Our tech was in Berlin. It was a disaster. And so we tried to make the best of it with building a local team. But when I eventually quit, my takeaway was that, man, that really was all about the product sucked and we couldn't get it fixed. If only I can be in charge of product too, then it would be super easy to build a startup, right? Like this, the infamous entrepreneur's last words. But that got me into product and really thinking about, okay, I got to learn more about this type of stuff. So I went to Bali and got into that, sort of trying to figure out how do you even make a website. I got into WordPress. I built with this thing called bubble.is or something, a no-code app builder. I built a little app to calculate your carbon footprint with a D, because I'd seen Cowspiracy and I couldn't believe that you had to go full vegan, basically. So I had some confirmation bias, but I mapped everything out in Excel. I was like, okay, if you just stop eating beef and lamb, you're basically 3/4 of the way there. Good news. So I built an app to also make that point, but it never got any traction.
Who do you thought would be the audience, like the consumers, or just build it because you felt it's good?
Yeah, just for fun. And for trying to learn Bubble and shipping something by myself. But I think on Bali, I also learned a couple of really other very important things, mainly that I am not made for retirement. I cannot live on a tropical island and do nothing and be surrounded by other people doing nothing. So it became clear that, and by then I had met my now wife and mother of my children, it became clear that we had to move to a hub, a place where there's more economic activity happening. And Singapore made a lot of sense. We wanted to start a family, which of course, Singapore is absolutely perfect place for doing that. And it was funny. I had started feeling whenever I passed through Singapore, some sort of gravity effect that I started being convinced that somehow we're going to end up in Singapore somehow for some time of our lives. And maybe that sort of was a self-fulfilling prophecy and I made it happen. But ended up starting Oxstreet because of a number of rocket-related takeaways. One, the product. Two, if you want to build anything in e-commerce in Asia, it has to be high-end stuff, because on the low end, there's no way to make money.
No margin.
Yeah, there's no margin. And then sneakers. I've been interested in sneakers my whole life, so that made sense. So did that, packed up, moved to Singapore. We moved to Singapore because we're not expats with packages and containers. Yeah. So we moved to Singapore from Bali with Air Asia. We bought an extra chair somehow for my guitar, and then also so we got even more baggage allowance. Yeah, it was a pretty ridiculous way to move, but
it's a nice hack.
Yeah, it's a nice hack.
Yeah, it's cheap though. Right?
Yeah.
How did you come up with the idea of Oxstreet? Like, what's engaging over there? Saying, okay, this is what I want to build.
I was at I did a lot of marketplace stuff at Rocket, and after that on Bali, I was also did some freelance projects for marketplaces, and so part of it was that was my tool. I looked at the world then in terms of marketplace problems. Another element was this was a Rocket play essentially, right? You had StockX, you had Goat in the US, you had Do or Poison in China. It was basically a clone of successful business into Southeast Asia.
And there was none in Southeast Asia, or just none of that level of product.
Not really yet, and they came quickly.
Yeah, no, because I remember when you were raising and we would talk a little bit, you would suddenly start to see similar things, because like it's like clicked in the gear somehow. Like Goat's getting big, everybody would, But I don't think, my take is a lot of them weren't thinking about it enough as a product.
Yeah, I think the economics were hard. So the take rate was dictated by StockX and the others at 10%. Mm-hmm. It's not much. And you have to still do shipping, and it's two-way shipping because you're authenticating all the products in your warehouse. So we were scraping together money from all sides with like a little bit of fee here and a little bit of fee there. But our net take was something like 4.5%, and it's really a tiny margin.
Hard. Yeah, very hard.
And then we also realized that within Singapore, this market basically doesn't exist because people just go and meet up. So then we had to go international almost on day one, and not like we're going to add Malaysia. We had to go everywhere at once.
What year was it?
2019. Yeah. So the whole thing was operationally really, really challenging. But COVID came, and after it nearly killed the business for funding reasons, because it was just as we were running out of money. But luckily, because COVID came earlier here, we were basically the first to bridge out of our investors' portfolio. Our investors were mostly in Europe. After that, it basically made the business take off. People were not traveling.
There was no more meetups.
There was no more meetups. Yeah. People got scared of germs. We used that in our marketing, right? Where we spray it down, and we started growing. And then we got our product under control, and we started shipping a lot of good stuff. And we started growing 30-40% every month for 10 months in a row. And that you really start to see the hockey stick in your actuals then, right? Which is the first time I ever saw it. I'm like, wow, this is not a projection. This is our actual numbers, and it's really, really taking off. And that you get all kinds of growth problems then, especially with operationally heavy stuff, shipping, throughput in your warehouse, like all kinds of interesting things to solve. Yeah. So it was a blast.
Let's go back to the funders, like to the VCs. What was your vision? Hey, I'm gonna be the biggest marketplace in Southeast Asia. What did you tell them?
Yeah. We're gonna connect all these markets. The people's preferences are different. There are style differences that we can cater to. There's a positioning difference that gives us an edge. And there's a speed and cost advantage. And that was true. We were, if you ordered the same pair of shoes on Oak Street versus StockX, it was like 10% less expensive. And a lot of the time you would get it in like one to 3 days instead of 2 weeks. But the counterpoint to that was we didn't have anywhere near the same breadth of supply, right? So the problem with shoes is that you can only use them if they're your size. So if you think about critical mass in the marketplace on the supply side, it's the bar is way higher because the first thing you have to do is filter by size, and then you have like 4,000 pairs of shoes in size 10 Nike. There might only be like 10 options. It's not enough. Yeah. So that was tricky, but there's a way out of that, which is to scrape StockX completely, which all our competitors did as well. But it did mean that as the real business of a regional marketplace, I think in retrospect was almost impossible to build. No one has done it. All the players are global. It turned out to be a global market, not a regional market.
Yeah, and what did you learn about? I mean, we've had a few people on, not too many, that have originated a startup here and sold it.
Yeah.
that list isn't that big if you think about it.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. What was some of the things you learned that people don't quite realize when it comes to selling a business that was a surprise to you?
Well, the main thing is that this was not a situation where I decided to sell the business and I ran some process of a couple of weeks and it happened. I had consulted for 701 Search when I was still living on Bali, which is a company that merged with Carousell in 2018, I think, or 2019, something like that. So it's the biggest classifieds in Malaysia, the biggest in Vietnam, and the biggest in Myanmar at the time. Mm-hmm. So I knew a lot of people there. And then we started talking with Carousell about doing authentication for them as a white label service as early as late 2020. So that's
to be a service provider to them for the things you had to do for your sneaker biz.
Yeah. Okay. So that was almost a year before the acquisition. So when the time came that we were still trying to figure out the partnership, and one day Sheree, the Carousell CEO, he called me up and was like, "Are you at the office? I want to check it out." And I wasn't, but I said, I knew where he lived. I was like, "Yeah, sure, come by." So I raced to the office. He met him there and showed him everything. And then he just told me, "Look, this partnership, hard to figure it out from the economics of it, right? But would you consider just selling the business to Carousell?" And I was actually, I did not see that coming. So I really had to think about it. And there were a couple of things that then. So I think the first takeaway is there was a long relationship already in place before that thing even started to happen. Then there were a couple of things that facilitated the deal to happen. The first was I was a sole founder. The second was I had not really raised much yet. I had raised only about $1 million. Those things combined meant that I had a massive percent of the company in my hands.
It's your decision.
Yeah, it's my decision. And then the other thing was I was actually raising then at the time. So I could put a lot of time pressure also on Carousell because of that. Because I could say, I'm not raising for fun. There is a time limit here.
Yeah.
And if I do this round, which I had a term sheet, then the whole deal's off, right?
I don't need to be bought.
Yeah. So that really sort of made the process, sped up the process.
Was the money you raised prior to that just done on a note, or was equity?
All saves.
So then they don't really have any say in what you're doing.
No, right? But also they didn't want to burn bridges.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying perspective like. Yeah, it's your call, but you want to do everybody a solid, but it's your call. Because, you hear some deals that just fall apart because.
Some shareholder decides.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that was a good thing because maybe they needed to be bought, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a very common strategy if you have like a good customer, a good relationship or partnership. It can be a potential acquisition step afterwards, and we saw it a few times, and I know it personally as well. So I'm thinking about for the audience that not aware of Carousell.
Yeah.
How do you describe Carousell for others?
I usually say it's the eBay of Southeast Asia as a starting point. Or if it's Europeans, I usually know what is their equivalent. I think what a lot of people in Singapore don't realize is how much bigger Carousell is outside of Singapore. So because of 701 Search with Muda and Chotot, it's by far the leader in Vietnam and Malaysia. And then there's Hong Kong, Taiwan.
And those run as separate brands, right?
And Hong Kong, Taiwan are also under the Carousell brand.
Okay.
As is Indonesia.
My coworker sold his car recently on
Carousell.
Carousell in Hong Kong.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, in Hong Kong. Great. Yeah.
Said it worked fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a big.
I don't think people understand the breadth, right?
Don't understand how big it is. Yeah.
It's multiple products.
Yeah.
Which is pretty impressive, right?
Yeah. It's a really cool company. It's very, very difficult to manage because you have to cater to so many different people and categories and experiences, like home services, cars and sneakers and
languages, currencies.
I mean, these are just the products, but then on top of that, you have all of that stuff, shipping methods, payment methods. So it's not easy to build.
Yeah. How many people today in Carousell?
I think around 700.
700.
Not sure.
So imagine going from a small company shop like yours. How many people have you been before?
30.
30. Jumping into this big ship. What happened to you personally?
Well, actually, of course, there's a lot of stuff So it made me a lot closer to a lot of my peers who have worked in enterprises or bigger businesses, because I had never done that. I was in private equity where it was a bunch of people in a room writing investment proposals. There was
in Excels.
And Excels. There weren't any. There was no politics. It was very intellectually pure. Maybe I was lucky with the firm as well. Then after that, all I did was startups, and then mostly early stage. So and I was always the boss. So from sort of getting things done in the context of a bigger organization, budgeting processes, those kind of things, I sometimes looked at it with wonder, but also, learned how to deal with them, because a lot of it is also necessary to do. So that there are some things that I've learned that I sometimes wonder if I want to learn them, right? Like certain stakeholder management elements of it, but it's also fun to have, a bigger thing. I think
so. It's the biggest place you've worked.
It's the biggest place I've worked, and the scale of it. If we look at something like customer support, there's just the impact is so large, right? Yeah. That is motivating.
Yeah. So when we talk about, we're gonna jump into AI, but we did good. We didn't get 28 minutes in. I think sometimes, like I work at the hyperscaler, so I'm selling picks and shovels, and then you look at the NVIDIA nuttiness, and then you have this cohort of people that like, this is all fake, this is generate emojis and all that. And I always tell people, like, look, we're in the early years, in my opinion, of building this stuff, but there's really valid use cases where this stuff is changing how enterprises function. So without revealing what Carousell does per se, but more from the perspective, like, how is AI fundamentally assisting you and how you see customer support, trust and safety, and what difference is it making that literally just didn't exist before, is my guess.
I mean, so many things. I think I'll tell you how I got really, the first time I was really mind blown. It happened when I was doing for Carousell. I was looking at app and Play Store reviews, and we subscribe to this SaaS that aggregates that for us. It has an API, and the data was supposed to be in BigQuery. And I opened that dashboard, and it wasn't there. So I was like, data team, I need this data. And they asked me, when do you need it by? So I wanted to say, how about now? But that's not the most politically correct thing to say.
Is today possible?
Yeah. So I asked, well, what's the earliest you can have it by? And the data man said, probably in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So I logged into that tool, and I looked at the API, and I found an API doc, and I found I had access to I could generate an API key. And I knew enough about APIs then already to read the doc and figure out which exact endpoint I needed to call. Then I went to ChatGPT and I said, can you write me a Google app script to call this API and get the data into a Google Sheet? And so it spit out some code. I pasted in Sheet, and it gave me an error code. So I pasted that back. I was like, this happened. It was like, okay, I know the answer. It gave me some more code, put it back in, pressed play. Whoop, all this data just rolled into my Sheet. It literally took less than 10 minutes for me to solve my own problem with ChatGPT. And that was the moment when I completely suddenly saw the light, that I can do things that I absolutely could not do before this.
Yeah, it's I think sometimes if you're not touching it, people don't realize, right?
But it's been, so I've been very active within Carousell to try and train people on how to do it. I initiated and helped write the internal policy for under what circumstances can you not use AI, and I pushed to make it very lenient.
Mm-hmm. Internal usage.
Yeah. And so I think everyone is using ChatGPT or Gemini in some shape or form, but advanced use cases like coding up some stuff or automating things are still very rare and difficult to get people to think of them. And that's where the app layer comes in, right? There's a lot of talk about wrappers and the app layer versus the model layer. And is chat really the best product to productize these LLMs? And I think in many cases probably not. So that's also what I'm thinking about from a building perspective.
And also, how do you think about from safety? Because some people will go to the chat, or you said Gemini, it can be Claude, getting the code, but maybe the code is gonna jam the production.
Yeah, I mean,
even the internal production.
Yes, I think those things it's possible to exclude high risk areas from experimentation, right? So within Carousell, no one's going to ship any code to the main product without code review, right? So not Carousell isn't going to break because of some non-developer shipping some broken AI code. If you're pulling some data into Google Sheets, really nothing can go wrong.
Yeah.
In support, we test that, right? So any AI, we're now actually testing an AI agent. It's doing 200 tickets per day now out of.
It's responding to them, the one where I'm a customer and I have X problem.
It's a chatbot. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And last year we implemented a basic LLM-based chatbot, and it's pretty good at getting information from the knowledge base and giving it to a user, but that user could have also found it themselves. Now the next step is that we created an API gateway for that agent to use tool calls in sort of LLM parlance to do stuff, right? Get data or even change the status of a user, delete their account or check why they are suspended. And all of that, of course, there are all kinds of guardrails and protocols, but that's actually really, really interesting. Then you get into the domain of those tickets where they had to be touched by a human before.
Do you expose this knowledge to your merchants, for instance? Hey, you should use this type of, tools or AI to improve your pages or whatever you collaborate with.
That's not in my under my team, as we then say. No, I mean, yes, there are all kinds of initiatives and even talk of doing some hackathons around AI. But I think there you also have to be careful too, because if you approach it as a solution looking for problems, I don't know if that's the right way to look at it. But another thing I can share that Carousell has that you can try is create listings with AI, right? So you can video or photograph your stuff. And
you take a picture now.
Yeah, it'll auto-populate a lot of things. I mean, it's a very sensible, simple feature that without LLMs could not exist.
Yeah, I think it's going to change the landscape. Yep. So kind of open up more of a Pandora's box for you. You've had your private equity experience. You were trying to move to VC. You definitely had that portfolio view of the world because that's what Rocket does. Let's, say what we will about Rocket. The idea was that's working over here, launch it here, let's go, right? And in some cases it was pretty successful. And I think overall Rocket's quite successful. Then you started a business, sold it. You have your side business, which we explain that, but you also have this theology of where you think AI takes a sole proprietor. And let's just open up this whole discussion because I think it's fascinating, and I think given what's happening in vibe coding and everything, what you're talking about and what we discussed over lunch, and Raz and I talk about this, is what's going to enable people to do is just more with less. Yeah. Which could mean multiple businesses, multiple products. So let's just talk about what's happened to you there and kind of how you see this playing out.
Yeah. So I want to start with what happened when I started really coding. So I got Cursor and I started building MagicDoor.AI, which is like a ChatGPT alternative that I built all by myself in Next.js. And it actually works. It has some paying users. I use it myself every day. And it was a lot of work to build it, and I think I learned a lot of coding fundamentals. Like it was so enabling because I have always been dependent on engineers in the past, and so much struggle came from that dependence that I didn't like. Just the communication, right? You have to give them fully fleshed out designs in Sketch or Figma, and then everything has to be thought out before the development even starts, and then it takes a long time for it to be developed. Now I can just sort of wing it, you know. I'm designing directly in the code and then just hooking up a backend to it, and I'm enjoying it so much, and that gave me a lot of reflection on the rest of my life. What did I like about Excel models? It was the same sort of creativity of building something that works, but there was no purpose after a while. Like, who was I doing it for? For what? I was moving money around. And then at Rocket, this is also about a seeking for purpose. At Rocket, I was building job websites in frontier markets, arguably a pretty purposeful mission to do, but it didn't really get me out of bed. But what did get me out of bed was all of this building, right? I really learned to build teams and process and sales and marketing over that period of time. And then with Oxstreet, I learned at some point we were so broke as a company, I've got rid of our designers, rid of freelance, and I taught myself design. I hired a designer to do a new homepage and a design system. And then I got into Figma myself to design all the other pages.
Now you have the new Figma stack.
No, I don't even use
code,
Figma.
right?
I just do it in Cursor in
it'll do an interface, right?
Yeah. I'll do a wireframe with pencil and paper. Take a photo with my phone, plug it into Cursor, add globals.css, which is where all my styles are at, and like just create UI for this wireframe using my global styles, and then it'll just do that in like 20 seconds. It's crazy.
I'm already behind. Yeah.
But yeah, so on your question,
is that how you're building Magic Door? That kind of method?
That's that's one of my workflows, and I think workflows. There's a lot of people write a lot about that.
So it's not a joke to take a picture of something that's actually made to be your interface, and then get that.
Absolutely, you can totally do that. Yeah, or you can just wireframe it in Figma, and get the AI to do the full fidelity stuff. Full stack is hard, so. Once you get to the point where you want to build a feature that has front end, it has APIs, and then it has to integrate with the database operations as well, AI is going to completely and utterly shit the bed. So you have to then really handhold it and figure out what needs to be done. So these async agents, I really starting to get into that now and trying to figure out how you can use them. There's that is now the frontier. So there's a lot of random stuff happening. People spending like $300 on an AI that went in a loop for like 24 hours and then hard coded the test cases into the code, right? Oh, the tests are all passed, but it just, that kind of stuff. Yeah. But it's fun. It's really fun. And when I was in my teens, I used to like playing video games. I was into first person shooters, simulations, racing especially, and then strategy, like tycoon kind of games. So luckily I had the foresight not to go into the army, didn't have the money to become a race car driver. So what's left of my original hobbies is basically, tycoon kind of games. And so that's where you have indie hackers, but I sort of see myself more as an indie tycoon, where you have like this portfolio of small or mid-sized businesses.
And you like you're not an engineer from a background perspective, but you're now shipping product that is doing this integration and back-end stuff and all these kind of things. And then you have this business knowledge. Is this kind of a new model of what you think the startup world turns into for some people? Because you probably don't even think about raising money now for these things, I would assume. You just operate them.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I think it's certainly the case that you can do the same with less and faster. But I don't think that the sole entrepreneur building a $1 billion business, I don't know. It's hard to see that now, right? Unless it's maybe something that is very hyped. But even that, like a Lovable or Supabase, Cursor.
No, they need capital, right?
Yeah.
Not just capital, but I think you also touch a point when you're going for a scale, you need the back end. You need to make everything work in a nice fashion, and you still need this kind of a DevOps abstraction layer. You can do funny games, you can do small apps, but when you want to make it bigger and stronger, you need to have some kind of either knowledge or be able to do it, with a friend.
Yeah, and then all of that still takes time away from the founder, right? And that's where I'm with MagicDoor now also a bit stuck in the build trap, because just to keep engineering features, it takes up the 5 hours a week I have for this. So I'm not getting to marketing. Getting into marketing, it is an entire new landscape of AI tools that I'm excited to try. But it's not like that's an agent that you just turn on. Now, here's the marketing agent, let's go. You have to create your content strategy, and you have to get an SEO automation going. You have to verify that that's working well. Then for social, you have to create all of the content pipeline with HeyGen and stuff, creating videos. All of that are different. All of those are different tools that you still need to manage and know how to operate. And I think for someone like me, like having done almost all of those things with people, it does really give you some sort of edge, because for each of those little things, at least you've seen it in action. You've seen a bad one and a good one in the past. So it puts you in a position to assess a little bit what AI is doing, but there's still a lack of time.
But I think, like we always say, something super hard and we'll never get there. And I'm sure we have examples, because if we said 2 years ago you would take a picture and make an interface, you'd say, oh, it's too hard. But now we do it, right? Yeah. So every time we're going to level up. But my suspicion is some of this you're doing because you want to learn how to do it. Mm-hmm. Like you're in that learning mode. Mm-hmm. But I would guess once you kind of say, hey, the marketing stack works like X, and I've learned how to do that.
Yep.
And you move to, let's say, product B.
Yep.
You go on Odesk and you find someone to run your, guys, here's the tools and here's what I want you to do. Yep. And I pay X. Because I know some people that are doing that, right? My friend's got a thing he's trying to start that's like a language tutor. Mm-hmm. Phuket, hopefully we'll get him on the show. And what he's doing is he's figuring out how he wants it to work.
Yep.
And then he's like, okay, I need a QA guy to test this part because he doesn't trust that the AI thing is shippable code. And then like you're going to start piecing these things out once you learn how to do them, probably to other people.
Yeah.
Maybe agents someday. Like it's like these things are going to keep leveling up.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I don't know. I think so there's a couple of things that I follow. One is, are the foundation models gonna scale? I think it's no one knows the answer. To me it seems like the fourth or whatever generation you want to call it, Claude 4, 03, and then Gemini 2.5. They are incrementally better versus the previous generation, just from a raw processing power standpoint. Mm-hmm. That is, I think it almost disproves like the simple scaling hypothesis already. Okay, can we get past this in a smart way? So Google is now doing like generating a couple hundred answers in parallel and then doing another run to get the best one, right? It apparently helps. Yeah, I think there's still some way to go. But what's happening now is this huge innovation in the application, like agent layer, right? Orchestration, context management. So context is basically what the AI knows, right? What you feed into it. So like reading your entire code base, looking up documents by itself to fill in gaps. That's all productization built on top of the models. Mm. I think it is not known whether that will become reliable or get stuck at like 80-90% of the way there for code, even for code. And code is testable, right? Yeah. When you go to marketing, it gets even more murky. Yeah.
I think the only thing that I'm missing, and I don't know if we're going to get there, it's the creativity. Because creativity, it's very tough to expect from the AI to bring it. And you're a very creative person, yeah. Also, playing a guitar. And I don't think AI will get you to the point when it's gonna do the things that are most creative. Do you think so, or?
I don't know if it's the right question, because when you're doing anything creative, you get writer's block from time to time. You get stuck. AI can help there, right? And if you need to come up with a name for something or a UI even, you can just generate 50 versions of it, right? That is in
like 30 seconds.
And I don't know if you guys have ever worked with agencies, marketing agencies, or places where creativity gets institutionalized in like a repeatable process. This is the way that they do that with humans, right? The 20 boxes exercise someone showed me. You get a paper with 20 boxes and you have to generate 20 ideas. Like a lot of those ideas are going to be bad. And with AI, it's the same. But you can generate those 20 boxes in like 10 seconds.
Or do 50 and find two. Yeah. I'm doing this with I'm trying to get better at SEO, right? And then at first I was trying to like do it myself and say, make it better. And then I realized it's faster than me. So I'll do something and say like, here's the stuff. I need titles from this. And I just tell all the time, like, try to come up with a good one. And then as soon as it's not a good one, I say, just give me 5 more to pick one. Then I'm like, oh, I like this one. And I'm like, it's doing that so much faster than if you were even sitting there. You wouldn't be able to do it as fast, me asking you to like synthesize this. I don't know if it's going to be creative, but my take is it's doing some of the rote stuff for me to give me more time for my own creativity.
I think this is
like you said, unblocking
the biggest advantage.
Yeah.
I think this
but that's huge.
But Raz, what I do agree with is that a lot of things like those games that Peter Levels made, the boxy flight sim, and have you guys seen that?
I don't think so.
There was a viral trend of people vibe coding flight simulators.
I saw that.
Or tank games.
Okay, I saw
that. And it looks like 1992 video games.
I saw that.
If that were not vibe coded in a day, it would get zero attention, right? That is not a product that has any meaning other than that it can be created in such a short time.
Yeah.
So there's like a bit of a proof of concept in some ways. And I also think that there is indeed a lack of creativity in some ways, right? If you give it a wireframe and tell it to make UI, it's going to look like every other web app.
Yeah.
But that is normally not a bad thing, especially if you're trying to ship SaaS stuff. You don't want to innovate in how the button works, right? You just want it to be sort of like bone standard, predictable patterns that people know.
Thing everybody always sees.
So that everybody always sees, especially for a first version. If you at some point decide that you want to be known for your artistic UI, you can still do that later once your business is making a million ARR, right?
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. That's a good point. Okay.
We'll wrap. This goes fast. Okay. So I think, what would you tell your 20-year-old self, given where you are now?
Get into coding. 100%. It was the biggest surprise that I enjoyed so much.
Yeah. Do you tell your kids to get into coding? Or?
They're too young. They're 3 and 1.
But why?
Why they're too young to code?
No, why do you tell yourself to go to coding? Why do you like coding so much?
I like that it has that intellectual stimulus that I got from other puzzle things like building models or building processes, but it comes with infinite possibilities and tangible outputs, right? That you can actually make money from.
Love it.
Yeah, it's just such a insane opener for a possibility creator.
You don't need to study computer science. No.
I don't know. Maybe it would have been fun.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's tough to decide, man. I don't know. Because I feel the same way with and even now I think my spare time spent on the podcast and trying to do that. Yeah. So it's not on building product per se. But I, like you, I've always felt like, gosh, I know what I want. It's here. And I wish, and I would start trying to code it. Yeah. And it was just huge time sink. So now I've played a little bit with Windsurf and Cursor and a few of these things to say, okay, I kind of know what I want to do and now I can tell it, but I'm still missing that ability, that innate ability to connect this to that, because and I know how it's working and I know what that error message is doing. It's practice, but then like you have to have the time to want to do it. Or what I know is, like you just said, people who look similar to me who were actually coding when they're young just sail right on past that point. Yeah. And then I feel like I've wasted too much time on it. I should go work on other problems, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think what's very ironic is that when I was looking at starting Oxstreet, I ultimately decided that learning to code was not necessary anymore because of low code, no code, and because there were so many engineers out there. Now AI is coding, but I am suddenly learning to code. It's really something to ponder, right? That as it got even easier and more automated, that resulted not in me just using that without knowing the code. It resulted in me actually having to learn how it works so that I can work with my AI.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's I still tell people, like, remember, this whole journey only started 2.5-3 years ago.
Yeah,
like just the genesis.
You know,
it's the beginning.
So like, there's a long ways to go.
Long way to go. Yeah. What do you do for your physical and mental health? What's your regime?
I run a couple of times a week, about 20 kilometers per week, but it's bare bones because you have 2 young kids and a guitar and a vibe coding habit. And
gym
a full-time
or?
job. I don't gym. I really want to get back into strength training because I know how important it is for your health, but I just deprioritize it for now. I think another thing is guitar. So I've been into playing music since I was a kid, and I have in a band in Singapore. We don't really perform. We have performed once, but we rehearse every other month or so. Super, super fun outlet. And another hard thing to get better at. I just really like getting better at
it's
stuff.
not simple. It's not simple.
Yeah, but there's a lot of, I've been playing for 20 years, so the core skill is there, but then learning a new song is still very challenging, and it takes a lot of practice, and I enjoy that.
Yeah,
which song do you love the most to
play?
Yeah.
It always changes but now we just started rehearsing "Welcome to the Jungle," the Guns N' Roses song, which is a really cool song. To think that those guys were 20 or something when they recorded that, and not sober. It's actually
not sober,
really impressive.
It's a good way to say it.
Yeah. Welcome to the Jungle. It's my favorite.
Yeah, it's
all-time
a good song.
album.
Yeah, Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah, sorry, that album.
Have you been in a concert? Guns
N' Roses? 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Twice in Singapore. Took my son. Yeah, and my friend saw when they used to play with the Colt and Guns.
Yeah,
and those 2 albums, Appetite for Destruction and Cold Electric, are just I could listen to them on any day.
You play?
No, I don't play, but I could listen to those 2 albums on any day and just take myself back to that era, but also still appreciate that they're of their time masterpieces. Both lyrical and to me, there's just nothing made like that anymore. But I know that's the old man get off my lawn theory. Right?
Yeah, I really tried to seek it out, and there are some interesting new rock bands around, but a lot of it's also nostalgia, right, to some degree.
Yeah, or electronic mixed in with it, and then I feel I miss the analog days. So great. Anything you're reading, watching, listening to that's been good for you or want to share?
A bunch of Substacks that I like. I find a lot of interesting Substack writers on a bunch of different topics, economics, but also there's a writer called Adam Mastroianni. He's a psychologist, I think, and he writes some really, really interesting stuff. Sometimes I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? But sometimes it's very, very cool. And then I've also been slowly making my way through the book on creativity from Rick Rubin. The one with the circle on the front.
Yeah, it's short chapters, right?
I started it a long time ago, and I it's not the type of book that you kind of like speed read or read through.
It's deep.
Yeah, but also it's a little bit boring if you read a lot of it. So you just have to just pick it up and read it.
I ended up getting it on Audible, and every once in a while just listen to a section of it because it's like a fresh idea.
Yeah.
Like he's an interesting character.
Yeah, he's a very interesting character, and his take on creativity. There are definitely nuggets in there that I like a lot that make you.
I think one of the ones I enjoyed, him and Matthew McConaughey have like a video where they talk to each other, and that was quite interesting because he gets into like corporate, and Matthew McConaughey talks about when he was a kid and learned to act, and the two of that together was quite interesting.
Yeah,
but
okay.
Ruben's a character. He's like, cool. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed the.
It's fun. Good luck with everything, and we'll definitely still see you around the coffee shops or in the hallways of Carousell.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Awesome.